Section 23 of English Synonyms and Antonyms. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Nicholas James Bridgewater. English Synonyms and Antonyms by James Champlin Fernald. Doubt to duty. Doubt. Verb. Synonyms: distrust, mistrust, surmise, suspect. To doubt is to lack conviction. Incompleteness of evidence may compel one to doubt, or some perverse bias of mind may incline him to. Distrust may express simply a lack of confidence, as I distrust my own judgment, or it may be nearly equivalent to suspect, as I distrusted that man from the start. Mistrust and suspect imply that one is almost assured of positive evil. One may distrust himself or others. He suspects others. Mistrust is now rarely, if ever, used of persons, but only of motives, intentions, etc. Distrust is always serious. Mistrust is often used playfully. Compare suppose. Compare synonyms for doubt, noun. Antonyms: believe, confide in, depend on, depend upon, rely on, rely upon, trust. Doubt, noun. Synonyms: disbelief, distrust, hesitancy, hesitation, incredulity, indecision, irresolution, misgiving, perplexity, question, scruple, skepticism, suspense, suspicion, unbelief, uncertainty. Doubt is a lack of conviction that may refer either to matters of belief or to matters of practice. As regards belief, while doubt is lack of conviction, disbelief is conviction. To the contrary, unbelief refers to a settled state of mind, generally accompanied with opposition of heart. Perplexity is active and painful. Doubt may be quiescent. Perplexity presses toward a solution. Doubt may be content to linger unresolved. Any improbable statement awakens incredulity. In the theological usage, unbelief and skepticism have a condemnatory force, as implying willful rejection of manifest truth. As regards practical matters, uncertainty applies to the unknown or undecided. Doubt implies some negative evidence. Suspense regards the future, and is eager and anxious. Uncertainty may relate to any period, and be quite indifferent. Misgiving is ordinarily in regard to the outcome of something already done or decided. Hesitation, indecision, and irresolution have reference to something that remains to be decided or done, and are due oftener to infirmity of will than to lack of knowledge. Distrust and suspicion apply especially to the motives, character, etc. of others, and are more decidedly adverse than doubt. Scruple relates to matters of conscience and duty. Antonyms: assurance, belief, certainty, confidence, conviction, decision, determination, persuasion, resolution, resolve. Draw. Synonyms: allure, attract, drag, entice, haul, incline, induce, lead, lure, pull, tow, tug. One object draws another when it moves it toward itself, or in the direction of its own motion by the exertion of adequate force, whether slight or powerful. To attract is to exert a force that tends to draw, though it may produce no actual motion. All objects are attracted toward the earth, though they may be sustained from falling. To drag is to draw against strong resistance, as to drag a sled over bare ground, or a carriage up a steep hill. To pull is to exert a drawing force, whether adequate or inadequate, as the fish pulls on the line, a dentist pulls a tooth. To tug is to draw, or try to draw, a resisting object with a continuous straining motion, as to tug at the oar. To haul is to drag somewhat slowly a heavy object, as to haul a seine. To haul logs. One vessel tows another. In the figurative sense, attract is more nearly akin to incline, draw to induce. We are attracted by one's appearance, drawn to his side. Compare allure, array, influence. Antonyms: alienate, estrange, rebuff, reject, repel, repulse. See synonyms for drive. Prepositions: to draw water from or out of the well, draw the boat through the water, to the shore, draw air into the lungs, draw with cords of love. The wagon is drawn by horses, along the road, across the field, over the stones, through the woods, to the barn. Dream. Synonyms: daydream, fancy, fantasy, hallucination, reverie, romance, trance, vision. A dream is strictly a train of thoughts, fantasies, and images passing through the mind during sleep. A vision may occur when one is awake, and in clear exercise of the senses and mental powers. Vision is often applied to something seen by the mind through supernatural agency, whether in sleep or wakefulness, conceived as more real and authoritative than a dream. A trance is an abnormal state, which is different from normal sleep or wakefulness. A reverie is a purposeless drifting of the mind when awake, under the influence of mental images. A daydream, that which passes before the mind in such condition. A fancy is some image presented to the mind, often in the fullest exercise of its powers. Hallucination is the seeming perception of non-existent objects, as in insanity or delirium. In the figurative sense, we speak of dreams of fortune, visions of glory, with little difference in meaning, except that the vision is thought of as fuller and more vivid. We speak of trance of delight when emotion almost sweeps one away from the normal exercise of the faculties. Antonyms: certainty, fact, reality, realization, substance, verity. Dress. Synonyms: apparel, array, attire, clothes, clothing, costume, garb, garments, habiliments, habit, raiment, robes, uniform, vestments, vesture. Clothing denotes the entire covering of the body, taken as a whole. Clothes and garments view it as composed of separate parts. Clothes, clothing, and garments may be used of inner or outer covering. All the other words in the list, with possible rare exceptions in the case of raiment, refer to the outer garments. Array, raiment, and vesture are archaic or poetic. So too is habit, except in technical use to denote a lady's riding dress. The word vestments is now rare, except in ecclesiastical use. Apparel and attire are most frequently used of somewhat complete and elegant outer clothing, though Shakespeare speaks of poor and mean attire. Dress may be used specifically for a woman's gown, and in that sense may be either rich or shabby, but in the general sense it denotes outer clothing, which is meant to be elegant, complete, and appropriate to some social or public occasion, as full dress, court dress, evening dress, etc. Dress has now largely displaced apparel and attire. Garb denotes the clothing characteristic of some class, profession, or the like, as the garb of a priest. Costume is chiefly used for that which befits an assumed character, as a theatrical costume. We sometimes speak of a national costume, etc. Antonyms: bareness, disarray, dishabille, exposure, nakedness, nudity, undress. Drive. Synonyms: compel, impel, propel, push, repel, repulse, resist, ride, thrust, urge on. To drive is to move an object with some force or violence before or away from oneself. It is the direct reverse of draw, lead, etc. A man leads a horse by the halter, drives him with whip and rein. One may be driven to a thing or from it. Hence drive is a synonym equally for compel or for repel or repulse. Repulse is stronger and more conclusive than repel. One may be repelled by the very aspect of the person whose favour he seeks, but it is not repulsed except by the direct refusal or ignoring of his suit. A certain conventional modern usage, especially in England, requires us to say that we drive in a carriage, ride upon a horse, though in Scripture we read of riding in a chariot. 2 Kings 9:16, Jeremiah 17:25, etc. Good examples of the same usage may be found abundantly in the older English. The propriety of a person saying that he is going to drive when he is simply to be conveyed in a carriage where someone else, as the coachman, does all the driving, is exceedingly questionable. Many good authorities prefer to use ride in the older and broader sense as signifying to be supported and borne along by any means of conveyance. Compare banish, compel, influence. Antonyms: see synonyms for draw. Prepositions: drive to market, to despair, drive into exile, from one's presence, out of the city, drive by, with, or under the lash, drive by or past beautiful estates, along the beach, beside the river, through the park, across the field, around the square, to the door, into the barn, out of the sunshine. Duplicate. Synonyms: copy, counterpart, facsimile, imitation, likeness, replica, reproduction, transcript. A copy is as nearly like the original as the copyist has power to make it. A duplicate is exactly like the original. A carbon copy of a typewritten document must be a duplicate. We may have an inaccurate copy, but never an inaccurate duplicate. A facsimile is like the original in appearance. A duplicate is the same as the original in substance and effect. A facsimile of the Declaration of Independence is not a duplicate. A facsimile of a key might be quite useless. A duplicate will open the lock. A counterpart exactly corresponds to another object, but perhaps without design, while a copy is intentional. An imitation is always thought of as inferior to the original, as an imitation of Milton. A replica is a copy of a work of art by the maker of the original. In law, a copy of an instrument has in itself no authority. The signatures, as well as other matters, may be copied. A duplicate is really an original, containing the same provisions and signed by the same persons, so that it may have, in all respects, the same force and effect. A transcript is an official copy, authenticated by the signature of the proper officer, and by the seal of the appropriate court. While strictly there could be but one duplicate, the word is now extended to an indefinite number of exact copies. Reproduction is chiefly applied to living organisms. Antonyms: archetype, model, original, pattern, prototype. Duty. Synonyms: accountability, business, function, obligation, office, responsibility, right, righteousness. Etymologically, duty is that which is owed or due. Obligation, that to or by which one is bound. Right, that which is correct, straight, or in the direct line of truth and goodness. Responsibility, that for which one must answer. Duty and responsibility are thought of as to some person or persons. Right is impersonal. One's duty may be to others or to himself. His obligations and responsibilities are to others. Duty arises from the nature of things. Obligation and responsibility may be created by circumstances, as by one's own promise, or by the acceptance of a trust, etc. We speak of a parent's duty, a debtor's obligation, or of a child's duty of obedience, and a parent's responsibility for the child's welfare. Right is that which accords with the moral system of the universe. Righteousness is right incarnated in action. In a more limited sense, right may be used of what one may rightly claim, and so be the converse of duty. It is the creditor's right to demand payment, and the debtor's duty to pay. Compare business. End of section 23. Recording by Nicholas James Bridgewater.